Hello everybody. In today's session, I am going to discuss letter writing. Have you ever written a letter to anybody? If so, to whom did you write a letter? When did you write a letter? And what did you write? Do you remember? Okay. If you have written letters to the people whom you know and to the people whom you don't know, then what content you have presented through your letter? If you remember, will you please share that with us? Did you find any difference writing a letter to a parent, a friend, a cousin or your teacher? What was that difference? Okay, in today's session, we will see what a letter writing is. Is there any standard format that is being used to represent your opinions, thoughts, etc. through a letter? The objectives of this session is to get familiarized with the concept of letter writing and to develop the understanding about the standard format of a letter, and also to sensitize the students on the various types of letters and to get familiarized with the classroom process of brainstorming prior to writing a letter, to develop conceptual understanding about the outline of the letter. So, you tell me, what is a letter? How is it defined? A letter is a written, typed or printed communication sent in an envelope by mail or post or messenger addressed to a person. And you know why we write letters? The purposes may vary. So, a letter can have many purposes, such as to inform, to persuade somebody, to sell something, to request someone, to instruct somebody, to recommend, to complain, and so on. Once you are aware of your purpose, then you write a letter. Why should we write a letter? Why is this letter writing that important? Letter writing is, of course, an essential skill. Despite the prevalence of emails and text messages, everyone has to write letters at some point in their lives. Letters of complaint, job applications, thank you letters, letters requesting changes or making suggestions, the list goes on and on. Now, we have to get motivated and encourage others to write letters from an early age so that they will improve their communication, social and handwriting skills. Writing letters definitely encourages good social skills. They learn to say thank you and they learn how to ask any information politely and so on. Within the home also, there may be many uses associated with these letters. It encourages good manners, especially writing thank you letters and to write invitations, writing letters to friends and relatives. There are basically two important types of letters. They are formal letters and informal letters. Formal letters are also called as business letters, official letters and so on. Informal letters are those letters which are written to your parents, friends, cousins, etc. Now let us study the formal letters in detail. These are also known as business letters. These formal letters are written in a strictly formal style. Such letters are always written on an A4 size paper. They can be folded 3 times so that the address to which the letter is being sent can appear in the window of a business envelope. Okay, now that we have learnt what a letter is and why letter writing is important to us. Let us understand the standard format of writing a letter. The format of an informal letter. You can have a look how it goes. To the left side of yours, you should write the from address. Just below that, write the date on which you are going to write this letter. Just below that, you have to write to address, that is the address of the person to whom you are going to write this letter. And then comes the salutation. In the salutation, you can mention my dear friend if you are writing a letter to a friend, or dear parent if you are writing a letter to a parent, dear cousin if you are writing a letter to a cousin. And then the content of the letter. The content of the letter may be divided into 2 to 3 paragraphs depending on the information you would like to convey to the person to whom you are writing this letter. After that, you have to make a complimentary close where you can say yours loving friend if it is a friend, yours loving daughter if it is your parent, yours loving cousin if it is to your cousin. And then you sign and write your name. Please look at the next slide, which displays the format of a formal letter. Here, to the left side of yours, you should write your phone number and your email ID. And then comes the date on which you are writing this letter. And then you have to write the name of the person to whom the letter is being written. And then you have to write the designation of that person and write the name of the organization for which the person is working, and then the address of the organization, which should include city, state and also the zip code. And then the salutation. If you know the name, then you can use dear Mr. Ravi or Miss Sujata and so on. If you doesn't know the name of the person, then you can just say dear madam or dear sir. And then here comes the subject line. The subject should focus on the topic or the information you are trying to convey through this letter to the person. If there is any reference, you can also present that information under the reference section. And then comes the body of the letter. Here, the body may have 1 to many paragraphs depending on the subject you are trying to focus. Generally, the format of the body goes like this. It should have introduction, again body and conclusion. Once you have written that, then you have to make a complimentary close. You can say thank you, yours faithfully or sincerely yours, and then you have to sign and write your name along with your designation, and if you want to enclose anything, please do that. Already we have seen the format of the formal letter, which is also called as a business letter. But let us revise once again the parts of a business letter. foremost part of a business letter is the heading, that is the written address or the letterhead. This bears all the necessary information about the organization's identity. And then comes the date. The month should be fully spelled out and the year written with all 4 digits. The date is aligned with the return address. The number of the date is pronounced as an ordinal figure, though the endings ST, ND, RD, TH are often omitted in writing. And the next part in the business letter is the inside address. In a business or formal letter, you should give the address of the recipient after your own address. Include the recipient's name, company, address and postal code. The number of the house is written before the name of the street. Add job title if appropriate. Separate the recipient's name and title with a comma. Double check that you have the correct spelling of the recipient's name. And the next part here is the greeting, that is also called as the salutation. The type of salutation depends on your relationship with the recipient. It normally begins with the word dear and always includes the person's last name. For example, if the name is Dr. Manju Kapoor, so you can just mention it as Dear Dr. Kapoor. If you do not know the name or the sex of the receiver, then address it to Dear Madam / Sir or Dear Sales Manager or Dear Human Resources Director accordingly. The next part of the business letter is the subject line. It can help the recipient in dealing successfully with the aims of your letter. Normally, the subject sentence is preceded with the word subject or reference. Then coming to the next part of the business letter, the body paragraphs. The body is where you explain why you are writing. It is the main part of the business letter. Use a new paragraph when you wish to introduce a new idea or element into your letter. Make sure the receiver knows who you are and why you are writing, but try to avoid starting with I. And the next part is the complimentary close. This short, polite closing ends always with a comma when your greeting ends with a comma. It is either at the left margin or its left edge is in the center, depending on the business letter style that you use. Here, I would make a point. There are 2 styles of writing a letter, a British style and an American style. The format which I have given to you is of American style, where all the contents of the letters are written towards your left. Now, it begins at the same column the heading does. The traditional rule of etiquette in Britain is that a formal letter starting Dear Sir or Madam must end Yours faithfully, while a letter starting Dear must end Yours sincerely. Then coming to the next part of the business letter, the signature and writer's identification. The signature is the last part of the letter. You should sign your first and last names. The signature line may include a second line for a title if appropriate. The signature should start directly above the first letter of the signature line in the space between the close and the signature line. And towards the end, the initials, enclosures and copies. Initials are to be included if someone other than the writer types the letter. If you include other material in the letter, put enclosure. CC means a copy or copies that are sent to someone else. So, is it clear? Now, you have learnt the different parts of a formal letter. So, here in the next module, we will go through the example letters that are based on their function. Letter of inquiry and letters providing information. These are formal letters and messages that are to be precise and detailed, covering all the required information. Two types of letters can be undertaken: a letter requesting information and a reply providing it. The next type of letters are thank you letters. Thank you letters are very important and they can be used in lots of ways. Thanking organizations for helping, thanking people for helping you, thanking someone for a lovely time they have spent with you. So, these letters will enhance your relationship with the other people. They make a good follow-up exercise after receiving presents or going on a visit too. The next type of example letter is a letter of invitation. Do you like to receive invitations? Yes? Yeah. If you want to be invited when you receive an invitation letter, so you are too excited, you can just imagine receiving a handwritten invitation letter asking you to attend to a party or a special event makes you feel very special. The other example letter is letter of complaint. Do you read newspapers? If you read, so you can find at least one letter on complaint in the newspaper, don't you? Okay. A letter of complaint. Sometimes people write letters to organizations or the newspapers to complain about the bad condition of the roads in their streets, the litter that is spread all over the roads and the poor service of municipality or anybody else. We write many letters to many people. We even write letters to magazines and newspapers. That is what we just have discussed. Letters to magazines. These letters aim to pass a message or an opinion. They are slightly written differently to normal letters and they are always addressed dear sir or dear, either the name of the newspaper or the name of the magazine. And these letters are directed at a wide audience. So, we have studied about the formal and informal letters, the format of the letters, but they are addressed to one or a group of people. But these letters are different to those letters because they are directed towards a larger audience and anyone can read this. Now, the most important letter. and this letter definitely will help you to enhance your career prospects. Cover letters. They are also called as application letters. For example, job application letters. The letter of application, it is similar to a sales letter. In fact, it is a sales letter in which you market your abilities, your skills and your knowledge. When writing these kinds of letters, remember that you have competition. You are in the zone of competition with the other people. A cover letter to apply for a job should have 3 to 4 paragraphs, with the longest one being the middle one or 2, and the shortest one being the final and the summation paragraphs. While writing a cover letter, you need to keep in mind 3 points. The first one, catch the reader's attention. Secondly, convince the reader that you are a qualified candidate for the post. And third, request for an interview. Please look at the next slide for an example cover letter. This letter is written by a person named Harry Napier. The next line gives his home address, 53 Duncan Avenue, Whitestone, New York 11357, and the mobile number or the landline number, and then his email ID. Just below it is the date on which he has written this letter. Below that is the address of the person to whom he had written this letter. The person name is Mr. Mike Stevenson, HR Manager, National Financial Company, 257 East Avenue. This is the address of the company, New York 11331. And then the salutation, Dear Mr. Stevenson, I am writing to introduce myself as a student of New York University Finance Department. I am responding to your advertisement in the local employment news for the requirement of a senior accounting student for your accounts department. As you can see in the enclosed resume, I have a very strong academic background in accounting combined with over 5 years work experience in accounting and bookkeeping. My recent internship at Influx Accounts Company, New York, allowed me to further develop and strengthen my technical skills. I am proficient in using packages like accounts payable and accounts receivable along with MS Office and Peachtree. I believe that I could make a significant and valuable contribution to your firm. I would appreciate the opportunity to discuss how my education and experience will be helpful to you. I will be contacting you tomorrow morning on phone to talk about the possibility of arranging an interview. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely yours, Harry Napier, Senior Student Accounts, New York University. Enclosures: resume, letter of appreciation from the head of the department, Finance, New York University. I have read out that letter for you. Now that you have understood how to write a letter and you have understood what is the standard format of writing a letter and you also learnt about the different types of letters writing to different people. You should also know some important points that are to be kept in your mind while writing a letter. Before writing a letter, think about what you have to write. You should know to whom you are writing that letter, and you should think and plan what to write exactly in your letter. So, you can practice that first, writing whatever you want to represent through that letter on a separate sheet of paper. Later, you can draft the final letter. If you have forgotten anything, you can add while drafting the final letter. Think about the person to whom you are writing a letter. If he is a relative of yours, then you can go for an informal letter. If you are writing to a business personnel, then you should write a formal letter. You should be very careful while writing a formal letter. It should be represented in the standard format, and the language used should be very polite and formal. Whatever points you would like to convey through this letter, you first divide your points into paragraphs. Each paragraph should explain one point. Make sure that you use thought connectives so that they can link your ideas and thoughts. So, please keep these points in your mind while writing a letter, which will definitely make the reader easy to read your letter and give you a reply. So, this is all about the letter writing. Did you understand now? I hope everyone will write very good letter and expect good replies from the others. Thank you. This is the end of the presentation.